Welcome back to the workshop. I present to you the Sunsphere, Puzzle Box 6. I've been giving some hints about it over time, and so here it is. The Sunsphere was part of the 1982 World's Fair here in Knoxville. It was sort of taking the sun and putting it in on a pedestal for all to see. And so the Sunsphere still is there. I am part of Generation X that watched the Simpsons episode in 1996 where Bart and his friends go to Knoxville for the 1982 World's Fair 14 years after it happens. And so the fair did happen. The Sunsphere is still there. You can go up in it and take a look around. It's $5 as of when this video was made in 2024. May 2024 is 42 years after the opening of the fair in 1982. So that's another reason for getting this done when I did. During the fair, it was sort of an energy focus, taking entities like the Tennessee Valley Authority, Oak Ridge National Laboratories, University of Tennessee, and putting them together with other countries to investigate, look into energy efficiency and getting into better ways of energy for the world. And so the Sunsphere was sort of the focal point of the fair. Here's a booklet, sort of a souvenir booklet of the Sunsphere that shows World's Fair. It shows Sunsphere, the Tennessee Auditorium, which is still there. Most of the rest of this stuff, the Clinch River, the Clinch Road viaduct is still there, but of course all the tents and everything. This pavilion back here is long gone. But anyway, there is a video on my other channel, Ritual Hobby and Art, of a flip through of this book if you're interested. I used a lot of the content inside of this for helping me to make this. There's a lot of pictures in here of the building of this thing, some schematic pictures of the design of the sphere. I used that a lot for this. And in this video, I will show first what this thing is, what it does, some of the special features, and after that I'll get into some of the construction notes for you woodworkers who might be interested in making one of these or interested in how I made it. So we'll go into that next. I've been kind of hinting about this for the past 6 or 7 months. I started back in October and cutting the pieces. You might remember some of my videos, hobby rasps, woodworking rasps, moving on to doing some metal work with woodworking, moving on to making slats, and to how to make a hexagon, making a donkey's ear for a 60-degree bevel. All of that was related to this project. The shirt is a gift from my wife from Christmas from a store here in Knoxville called Nothing Too Fancy. Sort of this idea that the Sunsphere is a spaceship taking off. I don't know. It's weird. That's the first time wearing it, too, for this video. Aren't you lucky? Okay. So the Sunsphere. We have the sphere. Remember, this was supposed to be a very experimental project. And so I didn't know if I could make a sphere. I don't have a lathe. I don't have any of that kind of stuff. I don't have power machines, for those of you who have never seen my channel before. I mainly have a power drill and a lot of hand tools. So I made the sphere. So we have the sphere. We have the body of this thing. We have an elevator. And we have the legs and, of course, the bottom. And in this one, the bottom is a little bigger because if I did it to the actual size of the real Sunsphere, I would not be able to use it in the way I'm using it. So, spoiler alert, I'm going to solve the puzzle. There's only one of these things. I only made one, so I'm going to solve it, and that's what we're going to do next. So, like I said, we have the sphere, the elevators, and the bottom. So what do? First thing we do is we take elevators out. Take that elevator off. Take this elevator out. And now the sphere can come off. Now be very careful with this. There we go. Sphere is off. I have to be careful because this pin, I mean, it's just a dowel, quarter-inch dowel. Probably should have done this with a brass rod, and if I did it again, I would use a brass rod. But for this very experiments, I just couldn't do it. So it does have some movement to it, but right now it's not going to go anywhere at all. So the trick is you got to flip it over. Now it will unscrew. I don't want to drop this on the floor, so that's why I'm taking my time here. It's a long bolt. There we go. Top comes off. Now, set back up again. Here's what it looks like. Looks like you could just swivel it, but you can't because there is a little nail in here that's going to keep this thing from moving. Nail comes out. Now, remember this, the little brass piece that we made on the metalworking video? So this moves. Now we've got a little cavity down there. And in the cavity, there's a sequential discovery item, key. The key is going to be used somewhere in this puzzle. Originally, where the key was going to be used was quite obvious, but I did something towards the end that now makes it a little more difficult to find. Okay, so it's turning around. There. Probably already tell there's something weird about this side. This piece removes. It's actually a false leg, a couple magnets, holds it on. Set that to the side, get our key out, stick it right in. There we go. That piece that can now come out. This is also held in with some magnets. There we go. Held in with some magnets down here to keep it from getting out of control. So from here, now as you know, I'm a puzzle collector, so I can put some puzzles in here. We got Hanayama's cast tube. Hanayama's hashtag. And donuts are in here somewhere too. Donuts. And one other thing that I put in here specifically for this, little pewter Sunsphere. Bought at Visit Knoxville's Visitor Center right here in downtown Knoxville. So that is something that's specific to this and will be kept with this. I also bought a magnet for this project, but it just sits on my Cobalt workbench somewhere around there. So now, as you know, I like to not waste space. This thing is hollow, but there really wasn't anything I could do with it other than securing the sphere. But there is this little component right here. And so I did create a secret compartment in there, but it doesn't hold that much space. So, and because of the tight quarters in here, it's hard for me to even get in there to activate that. But let's see what we can do. See if we can get that out. It really is a secret compartment if you can't get it out. It wasn't the best ingenuity on my part, but there really wasn't a lot else I could do. And in the second part of this video, I'll show you that secret compartment. Okay, this is what's kept in the secret compartment. Little troll guy. This goes back to that Simpsons episode where after the fair had ended, they didn't really have any use for the Sunsphere, so they put a bunch of wigs in it. And it was full of wigs. And so this guy's little hairdo is kind of my my remembrance to the wigs. And this space doesn't have a lot of space. The sides are 1/4-inch plywood. And as I tried to get the secret compartment door down, I actually jumbled things around and he came down and the door is still stuck up in there. So in this next part, we're going to talk about how I built this. And won't spend a lot of time on it, but enough that you'll get the idea. First thing we're going to talk about is the sphere part. Going to this book, there is a picture in here of some of the schematics of the, here we go, schematic plans of the sphere. And what's of most interest to me is this one right here that showed the different levels. And I counted about 7 levels on this picture. I mean, there might be a couple extras, but for the most part, I counted about 7 layers. And so I created this out of 7 layers. You're looking at 3 right here. And then on this piece, this swivel piece is a layer. So that's 4, 5, 6, 7. So there are 7 layers total. The cavity goes through layers 4, 5, and 6. And so, because I needed to have it deep enough that it could actually hold the key. So it needed to be able to hold the key while at the same time this thing could swivel and hide it, basically. And so, and it is for the most part hidden. You could look down here and see it, but it's pretty much, it's inaccessible. That's the important part. And so that's how that was done. I had to kind of figure out, I took a sort of an idea from another puzzle about this sliding piece. Not a puzzle I had created, another one that's commercially available. But the sliding thing I kind of came up with, definitely getting the plug. This whole thing I designed and built myself, but as a puzzle creator, as a woodworker, I always take ideas from other places, and as well as ones I come up with my own. So, moving on to, now I made these octagon, or not octagonal, these are hexagons, making these hexagon pieces. I did a whole video on making a hexagon that showed the circles, using a compass, that sort of thing. I had started out just making some hexagons, and I had some really weird looking ones. And so I decided, I got it down to a lot of practice. There's a lot of practice in woodworking, at least for me, and got it down to some decent ones. This was actually supposed to be a third. There's supposed to be 1, 2, and a third one on top of that. And because this one is much larger than the actual base floor of the actual Sunsphere, it became 1 and 2, and this became 3. And so, because this had to be tall enough to be able to put stuff in and store stuff in. I mean, this is a puzzle creation, and we want to do stuff with it. This is not a model of the Sunsphere per se. So, the shaft of this thing is made up of 3 hexagons. There's one here, there's one here in the middle, and then there's one down at the bottom. And of course, that one is what glues to this top piece here. It is glued, and then I used a screw to help support it in place through that hexagon. So there's a little extra layer. And of course, the legs are also helping to hold everything together, because the sphere on top is kind of heavy, and I don't want it to just knock it over. So it could do that in one way or the other. So the slats, remember the slat video? Here are the slats that I made, painted those to look like on the Sunsphere. The ones on the Sunsphere are more horizontal. These are more vertical, but I had to do this for the optical illusion of the size. The greatest thing that I had the most difficulty with was the legs. So here's a good picture of the Sunsphere legs. It's the whole thing, but I use this quite a bit to figure out, the thing kind of goes down, but these splay out. The legs splay out. And so I was trying to find a way to make that work. Also, the legs are usually at the edges, and I just couldn't achieve that, especially over this. I didn't want them too close to the panel, so I couldn't get the panel out. So these two had to be to the side, and the rest of them sort of followed suit. I had made them to fit on all the different sides except for this side, but then at the last minute, I was able to come up with a solution that had magnets, and then the magnets would just fit in. So now they kind of all complement each other, one on either side of the other. So that was really helpful, and it just can be removed. So for painting all of the surfaces, I first put down some acrylic gesso. to sort of cover the wood and provide a backing for all the paint. Everything was done with acrylic, so primarily, here's some acrylic gray. This is stuff that just I got from a hobby big box store. And Hobby Lobby, if your eyes are that good, but you can get it at Michael's or anywhere else. So the gray for the gray, gold for the top. For the top of this, I used straight gold because it tends to be a little more matte. For the bottom, I put down a base of the medium yellow and then the gold. If you look at any picture of the Sunsphere, it always has a very bright but matte coloring for the top, and then for the bottom, it's reflections of everything that's on the ground. Those two can kind of change from day to day. If it's sunny, if it's cloudy, what's on the ground. So I decided not to put in all those different panes of glass. The actual Sunsphere has glass, or a very heavy glass, all throughout it, and then there's actual gold, sort of a, not a veneer, but gold is actually applied to the outside, and that's what gives it its appearance. And so I just wanted to make that gold appearance on this without putting in all the panes of glass. That would have been a lot of extra work, could have been very difficult to do, and it just wasn't necessary for the overall look of this piece. For the legs, well, for all the blue areas, I use a cobalt blue. And so for the legs, I put down a tape, just a basic taping material, and I followed a design when I kind of created how I was going to do the legs. Here's a sample leg prototype. They're actually much longer than this. But it gave the idea of an outside piece that then connects with some diagonal lines and some horizontal lines. And so I figured out how many of those I needed. And then after painting the whole thing on all sides, now for these sides, the gluing sides, I put tape down because I didn't want any paint on that. I wanted it fresh, or I wanted the raw wood surface for gluing. But all the other surfaces, I put the acrylic gesso down first. Then I applied tape to the front and back, not this side because this would be blue. But put the tape down and then drew and figured out on one of them the lines that I would need for the diagonal and horizontal slats. Then I copied that to the other 5 pieces and used a razor blade, or probably a scalpel. Used an artist scalpel to cut out and remove where the blue would go. There's a picture here that shows that. And that worked very well for me. This project is very similar to the Parthenon project, if you remember that, the Parthenon that I did for the 1897 Tennessee Exposition, Parthenon that is located in Nashville. I had done that back in 2022, and so why not do the Sunsphere here in Knoxville? For the Parthenon project, if you had seen that, you know that I did some painting, landscape paintings inside, and that was using the tape and the gesso, just like I used on this project. So that's how I made the Sunsphere. It took several months to do it because at every at every step, I was trying to create the Sunsphere. So that is my Sunsphere puzzle creation. I hope you enjoyed it. Thanks for watching.